How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Doing good, doing good, and doing good. And everything, Lisa is ready to take on the world today.
Huh.
No, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. You got your second shot, huh?
Got my second shot yesterday.
Okay,
Yeah,
very
had a
good.
few little tweaks, but I'm good. Take a
Good.
Tylenol and keep it going.
Keep on going.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, we do want to remind everybody that there is a possibility right now for a lot of people to get vaccinated. Again, this is phase 1 and phase 1A and B, and then of course the tiers 1 and 2 will be able to get vaccinated, and do need to make your appointment with the health center. So call them. And you can make your appointment, and they'll be. I think they're doing some of those shots this Friday, right?
I'm not certain
I
of the
think so.
schedule.
But I know that
It's
next
changed.
week we have a mass vaccination coming in with the National Guard.
Community. Good.
So we know that we don't have. I think they're going to be here the 11th and 12th. We don't have exactly the times yet,
Right.
but that's still to be released here shortly. So we're going to find out all that information and pass it on to you. But that's not why Lisa's here. She's here to talk about one of those probably unheralded jobs at the hospital, and one probably is one of the most important, yet probably one of the least ones you think about when you go to the hospital, and that's a social services person. So because you do, well, let's put it this way, you wear a lot of hats. You do so many different things for so many different people that you have to change your hat numerous times during the day, don't you?
Yes, flexibility is really the underpinning of my whole day. Every day, no day is the same, and kinds of requests come in, and I am a person that never says no, this can't be done. So I'll try my utmost, and I like the variety. It's great.
Keeps you hopping, doesn't it?
Yep.
Well, one of the things that I know we wanted to talk about, which is probably even more important now than it used to be, is the health care directive. You know, almost every single hospital now wants to know as soon as you get checked in, do you have a health care directive, so that they have guidance, right?
Right. They ask routine. It's a routine question now as you register coming into the ER or however you come in. And we would prefer to have one every single time you present yourself to the hospital. We do have some from years ago and maybe when you were a patient there, but they're already all locked up in the old records. So please, if you have one, carry it around in your glove box of your car, your purse. Carry it around, have it ready. It's a working document. You never know if you're 30 or 40 or 70 or 80 years old when you might need it.
And one of the things that, Lisa, that I think people forget about is that you need to update that every now and then, because people come, people go. With the HIPAA laws, you may not want this person to have information. Maybe you have a child and they got divorced, and you really don't want that other side of the family to know that anymore. But of which right now, your old health care directive says it's okay.
Right, and you do need to look at it periodically, once a year or something. And I've those tragic cases where a husband and wife were each other's power of attorney agent, and the wife has dementia. The husband suddenly, unexpectedly passes away. Therefore, she has no one at all. And with dementia, you're not allowed, really legally, you're not competent to make a new document. So she was stuck. And I mean, there's some tragic circumstances. So you do need to look at it, update it, always have more than one person on the document in case something happens to the first one. The doctors can just go down the line.
Yeah, in many cases with a husband and wife, they are each other's.
Yes.
But, you know, there could be a car accident with both of them in it and they don't survive, or they both are injured and they can't respond.
Right.
How do you do that? You need to have that secondary person there listed on that health care directive so that the hospital has somebody to contact.
And really, conversely, if you make it out and you are happy and satisfied, it stands forever until you decide to change it. Your old one from 10, 20, 30 years ago stands if the people are in place and you're satisfied with your information.
It can, but there have been instances in some of the major cities with some of those hospitals that after 5 years, they really want you to have it redone just to make sure everything is accurate.
Really?
You know, they really want you to do that. And I know in some, especially when it deals with trusts, because some of those healthcare directives, that's why I was kind of bringing out that example, divorces or passing.
Sure.
You know, in some cases, the person that might have been their director their trustee passes away, and now that has passed on to another person, or maybe two people. Maybe it's co-trustees. So, however that has worked out, you need to update your healthcare directive. But a lot of people forget about their healthcare directive when they go through and have to deal with changing a trust over or something of that nature. There's a lot of paperwork involved, and you just can't remember everything. And all of a sudden, you forget the healthcare directive, and something happens, and you've got an issue.
Sure, and really, I think an old idea is, I'm not ready yet. We're not old yet. No, anyone over the age of 18 can have the healthcare directive made out and have it handy. We live on these backcountry roads and curves, hills, and deer run out and hurt people. And at any age, you can need that healthcare directive. You can be unconscious. You can have brain injury and not be able to speak for yourself. And doctors, hospitals have no direction if you don't have it written down.
Right, have a lot of information. First off, we all know, we've been told many times, that I bet you people still don't do it. I know we all get a little bit lazy about it. Make sure you have a list of your medications with you.
Yep.
I have a list of my medications, but I can guarantee you half the time it's not with me when I go to the doctor, and I'll say, well, what are you taking? I don't remember. It starts with this or starts with that, and they can go back and they can see what has been prescribed. So that's not too bad. But if you're out and you can't communicate,
right,
you can't do that, so.
I always advise that they keep these kind of documents in the glove box of your car.
Right.
So if the ambulance should show up on the scene, maybe they'll look for information so that they know how to treat you. They know what to tell the doctors when they get to the emergency room. They know who to call to let them know that you're unconscious and you're in serious condition, what have you. Or
a little note in the wallet somewhere that says, call this person, they have my healthcare directive. And they can verbalize that right on the phone once you can hold them. So a lot of those different things going on. All right, so you answered one of my questions with how old do you have to be to get a healthcare directive. So you already got that one out. Knocked that one off the list. But another one is when or who can make a healthcare directive? A lot of people always think it has to be an attorney, but it doesn't have to be an attorney, does it?
Not for the healthcare directive, no. It's you can get online to the Missouri Bar Association, which is the Lawyers Association. They have written a legal document. They update it every few years, and you could print it off. You could fill it in. You must not sign it until you're in front of a notary.
Right.
That makes it a legal document. Give it to your doctor. Give it to the people that you've appointed to be your agents and your spokesperson. Give it to whomever. Keep it handy. I know that a lot of people say, I had that done, but it's in our lockbox at the bank. And here it is Sunday afternoon, and we have an accident, and the emergency room needs to see it, and it's locked up in the bank. So really, the bank is not the place for this document. It's doing no one any good locked up in your safe deposit box.
Okay, so my next question is, because like with a lot of trusts and things, you have to record them. Should they record a healthcare directive, which would actually make it public knowledge?
You can record that. Again, it isn't as important as
it's
having
it
on hand. It's not necessary, but if it's recorded someplace and then nobody has a paper copy when you're in trouble and you need it, it's at the courthouse.
Right.
Well, they're not open either.
No, but I meant it's another avenue of getting that information, but having it recorded, that it's now public knowledge. And so once you have that, if it be even during the day sometime and you have nobody around, if it was recorded and you knew where it came from, you can get that information. So it's not necessary, though.
No,
it's not required.
And even if you change it every few years, I mean, to re-record it or take it to the recorder's office and re-present it, people just don't tend to do that anymore.
Right. So when they redo their healthcare directive, Lisa, that they need to contact their doctor or their loved ones and then say, get rid of the old one, this is the new one. And then in the healthcare directive, it should say supersedes all previous ones, correct?
It might say that in the fine print. I'm not certain, but the date is what you go by. The latest one that has been signed and notarized is the one that is the working document.
If you can find them all.
If you can find them all, you should always at least shred or tear up and throw away the old ones if you're going to revamp it. Yeah.
Yeah, get rid of those old ones.
Right.
So, healthcare directives, and a lot of people have questions when they start to read those, and when they have those questions, a lot of times they can just contact you,
Yeah.
and you can say, "Yeah, this is what you want to put in there. Or this is who you need to guide that to." That's
And
another one of those hats you wear.
I like to get those done while people are in the hospital. It's convenient for them. We have notaries at the hospital. That way they don't have to worry about someday going finding a notary at a bank. If they're interested and willing, I'm glad to help anyone. I have a lot of community people that stop by the hospital and say, I'm here to do this. Would you help me? And sure, even right now, when we're no visitor policy with COVID, we can always find a little corner someplace to sit down together and complete those forms and get a notary and get them notarized.
Okay, so even though there is a no visitor policy, if somebody makes an appointment with you,
Yeah.
they can still come in the hospital and get that done. Depending upon how crowded it is or not crowded it is, it might depend on where you go. So, but keep that in mind. If you'd like to make an appointment with Lisa to get that done, you can, and there's no cost to that.
No, none at all.
It's called
community
free.
service.
Called
Yep.
free. That's that social service thing, right? Again. Now you're also a swing bed coordinator, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
All right. I know we have a commercial, and you say, "What is a swing bed?" Now still a lot of people are probably confused about that. So would you please explain that?
Sure. A swing bed is a Medicare designation for a rehab bed that our hospital is certified to treat people in the acute side of things when they're ill in beds, and they're also certified by Medicare to treat people for rehab. They don't necessarily see the doctor. They are not considered sick. They're considered needing rehab before they go home. So Medicare threw out the term swing bed. It's the same service that nursing homes provide, skilled nursing homes. People, they don't call it swing bed in a nursing home. And sometimes people don't want to go to a nursing home, just a stigma or something. So they don't mind going to a small hospital someplace that has that certification. They can give them the same service. Rehab 5 days a week.
Okay.
Medicare pays for it.
Okay, and so you make that determination, or you just fill out the paperwork for that determination? How does that work?
Well, usually we receive a referral
Okay.
from a larger hospital in the city, Columbia, Springfield, someplace. They say, oh, so-and-so lives in Salem. They broke their hip, and they want to come back home, being Salem, to get their rehab.
Sure.
And here's their medical record showing the surgery we performed. And so our team, we have a multidisciplinary team, nursing, therapy is a very big part of that. We review the record. Doctor looks at it, accepts the patient, and then we admit them. And then they're there for a week or 2 or 3, however much
However long
time that they need.
Okay, so let's explain this, because you just brought out a very good point. A bigger hospital
Yes.
in Columbia, Springfield, St. Louis. A lot of times they won't call and have you shipped back home because they want you in their rehab program. But you don't have to go to their rehab program. You can go to any rehab program you want, right?
Yes, that is true. And sometimes people are a little bit misled by thinking that the hospital has the determination of where you go next. It's like a transition or a step down. The doctor orders this and that, and you don't have a voice in that. That is not right. You can go anywhere you want to for rehab.
And being closer to home just
Yes.
makes a little more sense.
And when we had visiting in the hospital, they could see their family, and it gave them a real spark and encouragement to get up, get better, work hard in therapy so you can go home. Now we have window visits, and at least they know they're back in Salem.
Right.
They probably know some of us at the hospital from other times. So
More than likely.
they're home.
Yeah, more than likely they will. Even if they just went to church with somebody, you're going to know somebody at that hospital, trust me.
But unfortunately, the hospitals don't tell them all of their options, or they gloss over it so quickly, when they're telling them the spiel about discharge planning, that the patient and the patient's family don't realize that they should speak up and say, no, I don't want my rehab in St. Louis at Barnes Hospital. I want my rehab back in Salem.
Or at one of these other locations that they
Right.
recommend. And that was a thing that I learned from you dealing with my father is that they ordered me. They didn't give me options. They said, it has to be one of these 5. I'm thinking, really, why does it have to be one of these 5? And I didn't understand that. But Okay, I didn't know if that was something that they had a connection with. You don't know these ties and contracts that they have. Unfortunately, then I talked with you. So you didn't have to do that.
Right.
You could have had them. We could have brought them down here, and which
Yes.
I kind of at one time I wish I would have brought them down here. So the idea is, you have that call. That is in your power. So don't let them just tell you, well, we recommend this location over another.
The nursing home next door to the hospital.
Yeah.
Or something, yeah.
Or
There's an
a
agreement.
rehabilitation center that they have. A lot of
Yeah.
them just have rehabilitation centers that are associated with a
Owned by the
nursing home
hospital.
or residential care.
Sure,
right?
and
that are
owned by the
Yeah,
hospital.
exactly. So all that money stays there. And then the next thing is you want to be sure that you understand is when they tell you 5 to 7 days, don't let that residential care tell you it's going to be 15 to 20.
Well, I will
Because
say
they will say sometimes, oh, well, they're not ready to go home. You
Yeah.
need to question that.
you need to question that, but it really is reliant on how the patient's doing.
Sure.
When you walk in the door of any skilled rehab place, a nursing home, a swing bed program, a therapist and yourself, that you make a set of goals. They evaluate your skill right then, your abilities the day you come. They make a set of goals. Now, you need to walk 100 feet because your house requires that. Or you need to be able to go up 5 steps because your house requires that. So as soon as you can accomplish those goals, you go home.
They should let you go home.
So certainly at SMDH,
Yeah.
we are very careful and ethical about that because we don't want people to feel like we're holding
Right.
them longer. But sometimes they don't understand. If you're not safe and you can't get up these 5 stairs, how will you go home and live alone?
Right, exactly.
And take care of yourself? So, these people want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go
Right.
home. Sometimes it's not quite safe. So it's a lot of conversation, a lot of coordination, which I'm pretty well in charge of, and coordinating all of the facets of their care while they're at the hospital and working with the families.
And that's the key, working with the family so
Yes.
that they understand
Yes.
what's going on. Because I'll be honest with you, Lisa, you know as well as I do, a lot of the hospital jargon goes right over people's heads. You just don't understand it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they give you this booklet of discharge things and this and this and this. And, and if you're the one being discharged, you're probably ready to go home, but you may not be, all 105% focused on that.
Right.
You just want to go home. You just want to get out of the hospital. You want to go home. You want to be in a comfortable surrounding that you're more familiar with. We all do that. Everybody wants to go home.
Sure.
But I can honestly remember when I got discharged. Everything was there. I hadn't read it. Here I got home, and I know all about it. I talk to you guys all the time. I still hadn't read it. And then when I got home, I read it. But I didn't read it at the hospital. I had time to read it at the hospital and then ask questions. Instead, you kind of put it over on the chair and you get everything ready to go home and you just don't ever read it. And then you get home and you say, well, wait a minute. I don't remember the doctor talking to me about this. Or wait a minute. I don't remember me having to do this. Why is that in my discharge instructions? Now you got to call back. You got to get right to the people. So instead of it being in front of you, getting an answer right now, you wait. Get home, get comfortable. Maybe you leave at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You get home 7:30 that night, and you're looking through your discharge papers, and you're finding things that I don't remember this.
Right. And you don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't
Could
understand
be,
it.
like you said, medical jargon, and you need clarification. You can't get a hold of your own doctor to
Right.
clarify. So, we're really careful. I think one of the most important things is to get the family involved before people go home.
Right.
If they have family members, if they have a support system, that's so important to their recovery.
It sure is.
They can go home and go right downhill by sitting down in their recliner. Oh, thank goodness I'm home. This is my old easy chair, sitting here watching TV. And guess what? 2 or 3 days later, oh, you're so weak you can't even hardly get up.
Right.
You've lost a lot of the abilities and the strength that the program gave you.
And that's
People don't realize that.
That's the hardest thing. The rehab is the beginning, but you got to keep doing it.
You got to keep doing it.
Once you get home.
Yeah.
And a lot of times once you get discharged from the hospital, a lot of times they'll have a follow-up at home to make sure you are doing something that they can follow up and say, are you still exercising? Are you still doing these? Are you still walking 100 feet like you said
Yeah.
earlier? Are you still doing that every day, 3 times a day? Whatever they have given him to do or her to do, they need to be following up on that.
And home health is there for that reason too, to continue some part-time therapy and a nurse to check on you. I've had people say, no, I don't believe we need home health because my sister and I are going to make mom get up and walk around. And they're believable, so we just
sure.
let them go on, and the person thrives.
Mm-hmm.
But if they go home and they're alone, that's the risk. That's the people I worry about. The older people who go home, they don't really have anyone coming over. They're tired. They just say, oh, thank God that therapy's over. I can just sit in my easy chair now. And the older you are, the quicker you lose that strength and
That's
ability, and then you're not safe. Then you fall, then you break, then it's right back at it into a hospital.
So, and in this time of year, Lisa, and a lot of people who might be more active in the spring or summer, maybe they do gardening or something of that nature, which is great. It's fantastic. But right now, if we're going to be at 9 degrees, I don't think you want to be outside trying to do some gardening because you're not going to get that shovel on the ground very far.
That's all of us, no matter what our age.
Exactly. So, at this time of year it becomes even worse because you kind of are trapped inside most of the time. Now, day like today at 50 degrees, it'd be great to get outside and walk around the yard and take a look and do a few things and fantastic. But then we turn around 2 days later, we're going to be at 9 again. So,
Right.
It's very difficult
Crazy
to get
weather.
but to get any kind of consistency in what you're doing. So to get back into that flow, get that routine back again. Hard to do that when you have some adverse weather. We talk about social services, and there are so many different categories to your job description. We're not going to try and go through all of them. But healthcare directive number 1, if you don't have one, you need one. Please get in touch with Lisa. If you've got questions about a healthcare directive, she can help you. And if you're not quite sure, she talked about the Missouri Bar has that. She'll be more than happy to tell you how to get that form. Very simple to do.
Let me interject.
You go ahead,
So
because you're the boss.
many people think, well, I'm not old enough to worry about that yet. And it's an uncomfortable subject to talk about and think about. The adult children have a hard time bringing it up with mom and dad. I know I do. Our family, that's something, death and dying, we really didn't ever discuss. So you can get it middle age, you can get it in your younger adult years, but certainly by the time you're 60 or so, you really do need to have your wishes on paper, because you never know in this life what's going to happen tomorrow. And that will help your children, your loved ones, your spouse know what you wanted. So they can speak for you, and they can fulfill your wishes because you can't speak, or when you can't speak.
Right. Well, I had a brother pass at 23 in a car accident. You just don't know.
Right.
And, he didn't have to go to a hospital and wait for anything, so he passed immediately. But one of the things that was kind of iffy to us is they couldn't find his wallet. They didn't know who to contact. It was in the car. It was underneath the seat. It was trapped underneath the seat when he had the accident. So, but they couldn't find his wallet. He had taken his wallet out, put it between the seats, and down it went. They went by the registration on the car, contacted whoever they can. That's what's going to happen. And then they're hoping it's the right people because they don't know. They don't know who that person was. So then you're stuck talking to a highway patrol person and possibly identifying your loved one on the phone if it's a far distance. They don't come to your door. They get you by phone. And then if you have possible cause and they think now is you've identified them to our satisfaction, then they'll release the information. But until then, it's kind of a mess. And we went through that very thing, and it was difficult because you don't know it's happened, and you get this phone call out of the blue. And so one of the things we want to have you want to have that healthcare directive. You want to have anything that you have a question about that, and I don't care if you're 23 years old. I don't care if you're 20 years old. If you got insurance in a car, you should probably have a healthcare directive. If you can drive a car, you should probably have one, and you're on your own. If you're still a minor, you're still under your parents' guise. There's nothing bad about that. But once you're not, you probably should have a healthcare directive just in case.
And in your glove box.
And
or
in your glove box.
Purse.
And on your on your
or
body if you can.
somehow handy. And
Right.
at home, if you're not one that to get out, if you're very elderly and you don't go out, have it nearby. Have it hanging on your refrigerator. Have it someplace on your bedside or in your bedside table, someplace that the EMS personnel can see it or find it, so that we know or they know what you want.
Yeah, a lot of times people put them on the refrigerators.
Yes. Magnet.
Yeah, with an envelope. It's right there.
Yes.
It's just inside an envelope, so you're not looking at the whole thing.
Right.
And it's not a very difficult document. It's not a very long and intensive document. It can be as little as a single page.
Well, there's a few questions. You can do part of it. You can do all of it.
Right.
It's actually 4 pages long, but the one whole page is your notary, your signature and your notary. So the other pages have a few questions on each one. You got to have name, address, and phone numbers of your agents, the people that you choose, that you trust to speak for you. And then they really have a moral obligation to carry out what is on your document, what you want.
Yeah, usually the signature page is one page of its own.
Yes.
And the other one is what you
Questions,
want and who you want to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So, very good. All right, very good. You have anything else you want to interject?
No, I think we've covered it very well
All
today.
right, thank you very much.
Thank
Well,
you
we
for
always
having me.
appreciate Lisa coming in. She's kind of a liaison at the hospital for a number of different things with Salvation Army and all kinds of different organizations that come and go, and you attend a lot of those meetings and stuff. So you're well versed in your day. I will say that. You don't, as you mentioned, you have a very interesting day because every
do.
single one is different.
I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, well, we thank you and all the work you do. And
Thank
if you have
you.
any questions about social services at the hospital, call Lisa. What's your number, Lisa?
The hospital number 573-729-6626.
Your extension?
My extension is 2710.
2710. And get a hold of her and get those questions answered, because that's one thing this girl does. She answers a lot of questions if they can be answered. And
Correct.
if you can't find an answer, you'll call them back and say, I've not been able to find an answer to that. And it doesn't mean you're going to give up, but as of right now, I don't have an answer.
Sometimes I feel like a private eye of an investigator because I call hither and yon and Jeff City and every which direction and people I know and people I used to know and all over the place to find the answers. And it's just creativity. I mean, it takes creativity, and I like to help people. I'll try never to say, no, I can't help you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good things that you can help people, lead people to get answers to as well, because
Yes.
that's really kind of what social services really is all about. It's just letting you make decisions, giving you here's the background, you make the decisions.
Resources, yes. I talked to a family member of a gentleman yesterday. She's in Wentzville. She says, well, we're holed up in our house. We can't come down and take care of business for him. And I said, I'm your resource person. If you need anything, I'll email it to you. We'll talk on the telephone. You can do some legwork up there. But, just count on me as your resource person here, Salem. So I do a lot of that for people, for the children that are out of state or loved ones and family members that are out of state or out of pocket. For sure.
Very good. Hey, Lisa, thanks again for coming in.
Thank
Our
you.
spotlight on the Salem Memorial District Hospital, Lisa Dulany, your social services director and swing bed coordinator at that. Don't forget, she has a lot of hats, so if you have a question or two, get in touch with her today. We've got civic happenings coming up. Please keep it here.